what's happening, everyone? It is I, the man, the myth, the mustache, Tim here with a brand new video for you. Welcome to Season 1, Part 5 of What If My Hero Academia Had a Suicide Squad? Please sit back and relax because this is gonna get crazy. With that out of the way, let's get this story going, shall we? There were no words spoken as the hero killer known as Stain launched himself towards the pulpit. At the same time, Muscular and Overhaul had broken through the village gate with a spray of non-lethal rounds from the ATV's turret. Dictator was still trying to reboot his mind as a cacophony of exploding chaos erupted all around him. A loud roar from his chosen deity snapped him out of it. Dictator came to when he realized about a fourth of his subjects had broken free. Before the villainous preacher could reattach his quirk to them, they were spirited away by black and red blurs. It was then that Stain's kunai sparked a trail that was grinding along the dark priest's sleeve, ripping through its fabric and ending in a loud ringing that consumed both their ears. Dictator had blocked Stain's attack with his forearm. The crazed villainous preacher had always been a very paranoid individual since the start of his career. Underneath the exaggerated priestly robes was his metallic fiber pinstripe suit. It was stab-resistant, along with it being bulletproof up to a .50 caliber onslaught. The formal wear had always expended him a small fortune, but such was the cost of peace of mind. Now that peace of mind had prevented his would-be assassin, Stain, from using his quirk on him. There would be only one person that held all the strings, and that person would be Dictator and Dictator alone. Stab after stab, parry after parry, Dictator and Stain rumbled on that makeshift stage in the center of the village. They traded wild blows, each trying to gain the upper hand, but to no avail. Above them, Gigantomachia stood stoic, as if his motor functions had been shut down. It was at this moment Stain knew Bad Company's worst-case scenario had become a reality. The kaiju-sized villain was under the villain priest's control. Buildings were now on fire from the blasts of the turret. Muscular had shot an open propane tank. He'd spotted it when they first stormed in the gate, firing off a round that ricocheted off the hose that was attached to it, making a small hole. A second shot later, the round created a small spark and the tank blew. Hawks wanted them to create a distraction, and they delivered with gusto. That was when Muscular's collar went green. The villain suddenly felt his power return as he leapt into the air, landing on a roof, his maniacal laughter echoing throughout the former sleeping village. His body erupted in a spray of muscle fibers, causing him to grow in size. His laughter soon became more and more demonic as he flattened the house he landed upon. He suddenly felt his flesh burn as something shot past the corner of his eye. Who would dare? His teeth gritted in pain and annoyance as he searched his surroundings for the one who had the balls. Another blast shot upwards, searing the quickly replacing muscle fibers of the pumped-up villain's chest. The impact was enough that Muscular was pushed back. As Tank Tetsu rose from the destroyed home he was trapped in, he was breathing heavily as his armor shone in the morning sun. It was the dawn of a new day. Muscular patted his chest, putting out the burning red and orange glow after being shot by the Yakuza fanatic. With an evil smile upon Muscular's lips as he licked them in anticipation of what was to come next. The light of the dawn hit Tank Tetsu. The solar energy soon reflected off his chrome samurai body armor, readying it for another attack. Tetsu met Muscular's smile with his own, as he then fired off a red beam from his palm. Muscular, with his eyes now crazed and filled with murderous glee, charged towards Tank Tetsu. The massive villain ate the blast, but it did not stop him. Another blast! He ate it again. Like a juggernaut that would not be stopped, Muscular kept building up his muscle fibers. The pumped-up villain's body cried out in joyous agony as he closed in on his target. Tank Tetsu crossed his forearms, readying himself for the hit to arrive. But it never did. Suddenly, a loud boom went off behind him. Before the fanatic could react, Muscular had him. He'd leapt over Tank Tetsu, who now was locked in Muscular's tightening grip. The villain had crushed the organic shining armor, causing the former Yakuza underboss to yelp with pain. Overhaul power-slid the ATV to a stop as he beheld the monster that was Muscular. He was now about the size of a full-grown African bull elephant when he German suplexed Tank Tetsu. The boom, along with the cracking and shattering of God knows what else, reverberated throughout the small village. However, Muscular was not finished. With his natural flexibility, he flipped back onto his feet, pulling Tank up as he readjusted his stance. With a loud gagging of blood and possibly lost teeth that came and poured out of Tank Tetsu's mouth, Muscular let out a howling demonic roar of laughter. The fanatic was quickly losing consciousness, but still fully aware of what was about to occur. Muscular continued to laugh with demonic grandeur as he then German suplexed Tank Tetsu again. Whatever was left unbroken inside the former Yakuza underboss turned fanatic was gone. Muscular effectively neutralized him. Tank Tetsu lay defeated in a crumpled and broken mess. But somehow, miraculously, he was still alive. However, barely. Muscular looked down at his artistry and smiled with dark satisfaction. He turned his sights to the real prize in front of, or rather, looming over him, Gigantomachia. Dictator had lost concentration again as he watched his number 2 in all this chaos get destroyed by the large muscle fiber quirked man. His body went cold as he saw his partner's own crimson liquid begin to pool around him. It was in that lack of concentration that Stain seized the opportunity he was fervently searching for. Dictator yelped in pain as his cheek was cut. He then touched the wound and his eyes widened in utter horror. It was bleeding. Dictator's mouth went dry and his voice seized. He knew all too well who his attacker was now. The sudden revelation of it shook him to his core. His opponent was all over the news related to Hosu City. He was known as the hero killer, Stain, and his quirk was blood-curdling. Dictator then fell to the floor, now paralyzed by the hero killer's quirk. The Dark Priest's captives were now set free. Securing his target with more capture wire, Stain quickly turned to crowd control as Hawks and Gentle Criminal landed beside him, joining him in his efforts.
"We need transport,"
Stain informed his commanding officer as he looked at Dictator on the ground. Way ahead of you, Stain. The commander nodded and gave a knowing smirk. Smashing through debris like some pre-quirk 1980s American TV show, complete with explosions all around it, the Havoc barreled down the main street towards the center of the village. Overhaul was right behind it in the ATV, all thanks to the automatic driving feature within the Havoc's AI. We better hurry, little birdies. That big bastard is quickly regaining his marbles. The 4 of them quickly overloaded both vehicles with the village's population. It was going to take at least 3 trips, and the relocation was going to take about 20 minutes in total with each trip. Hawks then looked up at Gigantomachia, then at his team, whose hearts simply dropped. Bad Company's leader took a deep breath as he entered the beast of the vehicle's trailer. Making his way towards the front, Hawks stopped at the weapons locker. Shit, I do not want to blow him up. He's the most valuable asset to my squad. Hawks then scanned his palm, eye, and body. This was then followed by him saying his code. The locker opened. With gritted teeth, Hawks grabbed Stain's swords, then shut the locker fiercely. He then exited the vehicle. Stain turned toward him and suddenly gave an evil grin as Hawks tossed him his main weapons. Remember, I will end you. Without hesitation. The hero killer nodded. He would play by their rules. For now. It was then that Gigantomachia roared to life, realizing what happened to him. Dictator was now steadily losing his mind as Stain's quirk wore off. Somehow he then managed to get to his feet. Though his arms were still bound, he made a break for it. However, the monster's arms swept across the center of the village, destroying the makeshift stage and pulpit, as well as several buildings, halting his efforts. Dictator's deity was enraged. Moreover, he was targeting him. That same arm then sent Dictator flying to the village's surrounding wooden wall, splattering upon impact. The giant villain had spotted him after regaining his senses and would not let Dictator's actions go unpunished. Because of, well, sinners in the hands of an angry god and all that. The wall surrounding the village was made from the trunks of hinoki cypress trees. It was not very accommodating upon high-speed impact. Stain, Muscular, Overhaul, and Hawks looked towards where Dictator struck, then back at Gigantomachia. Gentle Criminal was more concerned about evacuating the elderly, as he stretched out a large portion of air, making an elastic shield bay for the Havoc and the ATV when they returned. Pretty Bird continued to evacuate the villagers. Hawks then turned to face the idiot who tried to prank him. Jiren, assist him. Jiren was about to sneak away when he was stopped by the proper villain. Gentle Criminal pointed at him, then gestured with the same pointer finger, no. First, you make yourself a turncoat. Gentle Criminal backhanded Jiren. Now you're willing to abandon these people? Jiren tried to grab Gentle's head, but the proper villain parried his hands instantly, making a gently trampoline. Jiren was tossed back, his body hitting the road Leviathan hard. Gentle Criminal then pinned Jiren with his cane's large diamond handle. It was now pressed against his captive's throat. You shall abide by the contract given. Now, chop chop! Jiren nodded his head as Gentle released him. Back with Hawks, Muscular, and Overhaul, the group readied themselves, for they were now facing the behemoth of a villain. The false deity roared like a wild beast as it began to rampage and rip apart the village. Hawks looked at Stain nodding and motioning towards the sky. With a mighty flap of his wings, Hawks launched himself skyward. Stain followed suit as Muscular cupped his hands. The hero killer made a mad dash towards him, then leapt upon Muscular's cupped hands. The grinning villain then launched Stain up to the number 2 hero, who caught him in a spin, then redirected him towards the giant monster. Hawks then hit a button on his detonator, and the dummies sprung up, firing their airsoft payloads, throwing Gigantomachia off his attack. Pleased, he then signaled Muscular to charge. Muscular smirked in acknowledgement. Now it was his turn to have some fun. Roaring with laughter, he began barreling towards the giant in a mad sprint to the end. He jumped once, landing in a crouch, his legs locking in like tightly coiled springs. Muscle fibers then exploded from his upper thighs and calves. With evil, crazed laughter, Muscular launched himself towards his target. Stain locked his wrists as he began to twist his body, his sword spinning around him like some kind of satanic propeller. He was going for Gigantomachia's eyes. They were his most vulnerable area. The hero killer roared as sparks flew from his swords as they struck the monster's skin. The quirk, Fierce Gains, had hardened Gigantomachia's skin to an almost metallic state. From the dossier Hawks had received from the Warden, the monster they were now facing had at least 7 quirks, 4 of which modified his physical prowess. The quirks Endurance, Pain Blocker, Gigantification, and Energy Saver were all self-explanatory. The quirk Dog had enhanced his senses to Alpha Predator status. Fierce Gains made him nigh invincible. And before we get back to the video, I want to talk about our new channel, Celestia, our channel dedicated to all things Dungeons and Dragons. Currently, we have a series breaking down the different spells in D&D, and soon we'll be starting some new series as well. So if you're a fan of D&D or have an interest in learning about it, check it out, please. Additionally, if there is something you've always wanted to see get made into a video, head over there now and leave a comment mentioning it. Now let's get back to the video, shall we? Muscular shoved Stain off course. How dare you! It was at that moment a claw-like hand stabbed into Muscular, skewering him like a human kebab. Shit! Stain's eyes widened upon realizing that Muscular had just taken a bullet. Well, a claw for him. Now's your chance, asswipe! Snapping out of it, Stain springboarded off the behemoth's right pectoral, landing in a sprint. The hero killer raced up the monster's arm that had just stabbed Muscular. He then leapt forward to gain more ground. Stain then slashed the left levator scapula of Gigantomachia's neck. The sword clanged, sparked, and scraped along the full length of the neck muscle. This garnered the monster's attention as he quickly turned his head facing Stain. Perfect! Stain snarled and flipped both swords with the blades, pointing downward and sending them deep into Gigantomachia's eyes. Gigantomachia could harden every part of his skin down to even the small sections of his eyelids. However, what he could not harden were the soft organs that were his eyeballs. Stain then twisted his weapons deep within the monster's eye sockets before ripping them out in a geyser of crimson liquid. Before the crimson liquid drinking villain could have a taste, a clawed hand grabbed him, clanked, shattering his ribs and arms before launching him into the terra firma below. Stain struck the ground hard, his body broken, but alive. Hawks saw his top squad member fall. He cringed as Stain let out a painful roar. At least you're alive, Bloodsport. Hawks then ordered Gentle Criminal to retrieve Stain. Muscular gave a hiss of sympathy. That was pretty messed up, even by his standards. The pumped-up villain was now leaning against some debris after the giant dropped him. Even though after being impaled and all, Muscular could still somehow stand. Thankfully, the claws did not reach his main body beneath all those fibers. Unfortunately, though, it did not mean it didn't hurt like hell. Those muscle fibers still had nerves. Nerves that Muscular was very much aware were attached to live pain receptors. Gritting his teeth, Muscular noticed that Gigantomachia had dropped his Fierce Gains quirk. He was about to notify Hawks when... Recover a bit, meatbag. Muscular turned his head, raising an eyebrow at Overhaul. It's my turn to have some fun. Muscular gave his best smile and chuckled as he politely ushered Overhaul towards the monstrous giant.
By all means, Bonbon.
He chuckled as Overhaul steadily walked towards the gesturing Muscular. Overhaul took a breath as he then turned towards the direction of Muscular's gesture. Walking tall, the former Yakuza boss suddenly stopped in front of the monster. He then adjusted his sleeveless jacket as the feathery, puffy collar danced in the breeze. Bright alien green lights glowed around his arms, activating his battle mode. With a roar, his arms split into 4 3-prong whip-like tentacles.
Ooh, kinky.
Muscular then blew a kiss towards Overhaul. Sparks began to fly as energy cracked and gathered at each of the 4 3-pronged ends. Overhaul smirked underneath his plague mask. Gigantomachia let out another roar which Overhaul met with one of his own as he charged towards the beast. 2 tentacles hit the ground, launching Overhaul into the air. The other 2 reached out and launched onto a forearm. The launching tentacles then worked in tandem, batting the giant's other arm away. Overhaul's metal arms enhanced his strength to that of their Nomu friend. They, the tentacles, then struck the giant with a lightning crack, sending thousands upon thousands of volts of electricity into him. Overhaul seemed to spin, whip, and float around Gigantomachia as he unleashed his fury upon him. You disgusting, unclean animal! Overhaul roared as his eyes went feral with unyielding repulse. I will cleanse this world of those like you. Your filth will no longer taint this planet. Gigantomachia was swinging wildly, now deprived of his sight. He was not trained to fight blind. Overhaul bobbed, weaved, and dodged every one of the giant's attacks. He would then counter by striking the giant's face, sending more lightning-filled strikes at and into him. You revolting beast! Fall! Fall! He sent all 4 of his tentacles into both of Gigantomachia's eye sockets. The giant screamed as he stumbled back from the electricity flowing into his head. Forward! Hawks commanded, pointing dramatically at the falling giant. Muscular leapt into the air as Gentle Criminal manifested a gently trampoline beneath his landing. Muscular bounced off it. Overhaul then ripped his now reformed arm out of the monster's right eye socket. Soaked in the monster's crimson fluids, Overhaul extended it out, catching Muscular, then whipping him up, launching him at their prey. Muscular flipped mid-air, then sent his feet at Gigantomachia's chest, as if he was a human missile. He hit his mark, burying his feet deep into the center of the giant's chest. Muscular toppled the behemoth, releasing Overhaul's other reformed crimson-drenched arm from the left eye socket. The former Yakuza boss then reformed his tentacles, catching himself before he could fall. His tentacles shrank and slowly returned to arms as Overhaul gently landed. Bouncing back, Muscular landed next to Overhaul and slapped him on the back with impish glee. The former Yakuza boss jerked his body away, only making the murder boner king laugh harder.
Impressive, Bonbon.
Overhaul was not feeling the new nickname. Bonbon. Pretty boy. I like it. The crimson winged hero landed next to them. Overhaul just glared at his commanding officer. Assholes. Overhaul shook his head. Suddenly, all 3 of them looked towards Gigantomachia, who recovered his stance. Can't say I was not expecting this BS to happen. Nor I, little birdies. Hawks then let out a sharp whistle. Hey, yo, Big Bird! with a murderous screech that caused all but Hawks to cover their ears. The Nomu broke out of the tree line, already in the air, as it came down with a great hammer fist upon the giant's face. Gigantomachia roared as the two battled it out. The Nomu was not even bothering with dodges or parries. He was tanking it all. He was originally made to take down All Might after all. Just then, the Havoc arrived, having now completed evacuations. That's all right, little birdies. We'll need to end our little tiff with Gigantomachia first. He looked towards his team, hoping they could give him some decent suggestions.
Any ideas?
Muscular looked around to the blank looks on each of their faces. This made Hawks sigh in disappointment. Anybody have a secret emitter quirk? Huh? It was the best Hawks could come up with. The Havoc's turret was their best chance of ending this. Gigantomachia was on his last legs, and this would be the final push they needed. My quirk is an emitter, but I doubt it would serve us well with our transport's turret. Hawks had to admit, Pretty Bird was pretty in sync with his own thought process. Then, an idea hit him as he turned to Overhaul. Hey, Bonbon, think you can use your arms to channel our ride's cold fusion engine? Overhaul and the others looked at Hawks as if he were insane. Overhaul then brought up his arm's hollow smart display. He scrolled through the main specs of their transport after he scanned the vehicle. Pairing. The others looked at him as Hawks simply smiled. Done. Their transport then pulled up beside them as they filed inside the Havoc. Overhaul then made his way up into the turret. His arms separated into 4 tentacles again, with 2 linking up with the intake valves of the turret. Normally, the emitter quirk user would just have to grip the handles along with the triggers inside, then point towards the enemy, activate their quirk, and fire. Normally. Overhaul then sent his other 2 tentacles into the vehicle's vents, snaking their way deep into the engine. Crank it! Hawks then nodded and turned on the main cold fusion engine. Overhaul's metal arms channeled the vehicle's energy as the turrets hummed to life, then sparked and cracked at their business ends. Nomu, fall back! At Hawks' orders, the Nomu let out a triumphant warble as the beast did as it was told. Gigantomachia then sprang to his feet. Now, Overhaul! Hawks said in a commanding voice as he dramatically pointed at Gigantomachia. Disappear into the darkness. Farewell! Overhaul yelled as he unleashed the turret's firepower, sending the giant monster flying. The beast landed several meters away from the destroyed village, demolishing what remained of the village's walls. Gigantomachia then began to tumble down the mountainside and onto the main service road below. Mission complete, birdies, Hawks said, pleased with himself. He then radioed the warden to send someone to pick up Gigantomachia. Hawks and company then rounded up Dictator and Tank Tetsu. They cuffed them with quirk-canceling bracelets and tossed them onto the ATV inside the Havoc. Stain laid on the left side of the vehicle, hooked up to medical equipment. Muscular and Nomu were on the right side, guarding their targets. In the cab, Hawks was driving, with Gentle Criminal back on the passenger side, and Overhaul in the back, exhausted from his turret experience. 1 down, 2 more to go, people. Hawks smiled, relaying the warden's congratulations on a successful first mission. And that has been our video for the day, so thank you all for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed it. Now before I go, little bit of housekeeping. First off, if you want more great storytelling, then We the Celestials has you covered. Our We the Celestials My Hero Academia and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check out more of those if you're interested. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I want to thank everyone who was involved in today's excellent content production. Their details can be found in the description below. Give some love to the writer, the audio editor, and the video editor because they do a lot of work here. Finally, if you're interested in what we do here with the Celestials, I want to extend an invitation to join our team. We only have one caveat though, you must be 16 years or older to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. And that's it for today's video once again, so thank you all for watching and have an amazing day. And as always, be kind to yourselves, be kind to others, and stay awesome. This has been Tim. Mustache out.